Lawwin Media Network.
Bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawwin Media Network.
Good evening, good morning. Here we are again. Welcome back to our show. This is our live podcast. This is Beyond Health and Wellness, Season 2, Episode 2, which is actually the last episode for this season today. So we're coming back full circle. And in fact, our title for today's podcast is Full Circle: Critical Moments, Quiet Growth, and the Journey Back to Ourselves. Welcome back, everyone, once again. Beyond Health and Wellness, Empowering Conversations with Dr. Rich. This is your host, Dr. John Rich Levine, and today's episode is a little different. There's no guest with me in the studio today. It's just you, me, and a whole lot of truth. Actually, let me recoin that, because there's somebody that's always been behind us, that's not seen at the front always, but she's the one that's the driving force of why this gets to your household, to your podcast device every single time we meet here. So now, before you click away thinking that, oh, this is just me whispering maybe some motivational quotes into the void, holding up something, I promise it's not that. Unless you really need someone to whisper, "You're doing great, sweetie," in your ear, then sure, I got you. Today, we're talking about full circle moments, the kind that sneak up onto you and tap you on the shoulder and go, "Hey, remember who you were 5 years ago?" And then suddenly you do remember. And maybe you wince a little bit, maybe you laugh, maybe both, because you remember those moments. So let's go there. I have a guest today. Her name is the one that we always see behind the scene. Her name is May De Vera. We're going to introduce ourselves together here in the podcast since this is our last full circle for this episode. Let's make this a beautiful moment for everyone. And let's proceed with our segment number one. But before we do that, really, I'd like to greet our audience, our viewers, all the way to the Philippines, north, south, from the north to the central to the south. Let's start from the north and then go to the central and then to the south. I'm talking about Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, those big islands and surrounding islands out there. We have people that are watching or viewing our podcast, even replaying the podcast after we've played live. We appreciate you for being with us, and we really truly value you in this journey. And all the way to Texas as well, the largest part of our followers and viewers are there in Texas, especially in Houston. We welcome you all. I know you've been a journey now. A lot of you have been with me together in the past. You probably have seen me in person as well. And all the way to New York, even to Maine, even to Maryland, to Vermont, the people that we met there, and in Wisconsin itself, we welcome you all. And let's go to the western part of the United States, all the way to Seattle. I'll see you in May 25. There's a huge Filipino community in Seattle, and I'll see you there in May 24 and 25. So it's a huge amount of gratitude that I express today for being with us. neighbors in California, Oregon, New Mexico. We welcome you all, even to in Dubai, in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar. We have people from Qatar, and I just got back this year from Malaysia, Singapore, and even in some parts of China. And in India, we have people sending us text messages and also comments and notes from India. We welcome you all, especially to special mention to my friend Robin. Welcome to this journey with us in our last episode. In segment number one, we will be talking about the past and what it is now, then versus now. And for this, I'd like to welcome our friend, the person who's always behind this podcast, Rishame De Vera. Grisha, good morning to you.
Good evening to you, Dr. Rich, and thank you for having me with you in the last season, last episode for this season.
I'm glad that you're here to keep us moving here, Krisha, and it is so great to know that you are behind the scene and pulling us all together. And there are things that are challenging that we don't know what to do at the front line, and you are there to keep us moving. So thank you very much. Now that we are in the front line, we are going to talk about what happened because you were there. You've seen a lot about what we're doing, and you heard probably a lot of the things that we're talking about. How was it then, and how is it now, as far as you can see?
Well, at first, it's really interesting. The moment that I joined Lawin Media Network, actually, I don't have any idea how these things works. So, I'm just really concentrated with regard to trans what's the word, transitioning from ads to going back with you, but I never really had the chance to dwell on much onto the topic. But when during the time that I already have a grasp of what to do during the live show, that was the time when I actually had the chance to you know digest every learnings that you say, and alongside with Miss MJ or Nurse MJ from the previous season. So I think that's the transition from then and now in my end as a person who works backstage. So, but one thing is for sure, from the first season up to now, and of course for the upcoming season, um, it will be just the same that I am going to learn a lot more.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I'm glad to hear that. And it inspires me to hear that because you're there hearing what we've been talking about. Several of our guests are sharing some things as well. And I've learned and I've enjoyed the moment that we journeyed together to reach to this point. And I'm sure that our audience are feeling the same vibration that we've been sharing here in this podcast. Because this is what it is. We are going to really just share out what our hearts are aching to be able to share, and we're just grateful to be there. It just reminds me about what Steve Jobs once said. He said that we can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so right now we are in the last episode of the 12 episodes of season two, and then we have season one, and now we're here. We're still talking about leadership, but we're talking about in depth, the one that's really personal. This morning, I had a conversation with one of the chief leaders in one of a group of hospitals, and she told me that she said that it is important for her to be able to tell the story that captures the moment. And I like that because a lot of people, when I go to different kinds of conferences and speaking engagements, I some of those will tell me, we have a difficulty in introducing who you are and what you do because I know you are a researcher. But if we tell people you're a researcher, we're worried that no one will attend the speaking engagement. And I said, why is that? He said, because, research is boring. And I said, but so why don't you just call me a magic pixie? Right? Well, and then they said, well, because you tell stories. But if we say you tell stories, then there's nothing there. It's just storytelling. It's like a baby childhood play. And I said, well, I'm a storyteller, researcher. Why don't you call me that? And then she said, well, there's no such thing. So right now I'm being called a researcher, storyteller, somebody who will capture the moment and tell it to the audience. And that's what we've been doing so that we can differentiate or at least give a comparison about what was it then and what it is now.
So, with regard to that phrase, Dr. Rach, I already gave you a brief of discussion earlier, but I really want to ask this in front of our live audience. Um, did you really prepare yourself to be who you are now back then? Like, did you really, had that planned to be, oh, this is who I'm going to be in the future, and there you are now? Did you really have that kind of thought or planning all throughout your life?
Well, that's a great question, and that's a question that I've always been asked many times in front of my face. And they flash that on my face, and it brings me back to those moments as well because there's really no concrete plan what I want to be. The plan is what I am right now, but it is the clarity of your future. Because as a leader, as a vice president of a hospital, I I am able to or required or expected to be able to forge a clear pathway to where the system or the organization is going. And because if you're not clear where you're going, then people will end up following those who are clear. So you better be the one who is clear so that people will know, will have the reason why they are following you. And in that connection, did I prepare to be who I am now from back then? I know who I am, and I don't live in the future. I live now. That's who I am now. So as I go, that's as I keep moving, that's who I am. That's keep moving, that's who I am. You live in the present, and the future is always the future. It's not coming near. The present is all you have. So when that present comes, that's me. And when the next present comes, that's me. There's no future for me. It's always the present. And then you look back, well, you see how far you have become.
That's really precise, and I really like that about you, Dr. Rich, because for many people, or for example, me, I am really looking forward to who I'm going to become in the future. And to the extent, or sometimes I really forget to live at the moment. Like, I'm really, paranoid of doing better in the future, but am I really doing better now to address or being a better person in the future? So, admittedly, I kind of forget to live
At the
during the
moment.
present because of
Yes.
that kind of thinking. And
Yes.
also, same with the past. Like, again, admittedly, I am the type of person to be really someone who always looks back at the past or what happened in the past, to the point that um it's like I'm still stuck in the past. I'm stuck in the past, and I'm always looking forward to the future but never at the present. So that's really a very, very insightful thinking coming from you, Dr. Rich. And see, I learned another thing today.
No, actually, it's not an isolated case, and it's not uncommon to see people doing that. They're living in the past or they're looking forward to the future, never the present. And we always talk, even the last conversation I had with one of our guests, we were talking about executive presence. And executive presence is very important in leadership, and it's leadership now, it's leadership at the moment, it's capturing the story as they happen. And it is very important for leaders to be able to do that because there is no such thing as future. You don't become the future. You are what you are now. And what you are now is a product of what you were before. So what you imagined before is the product of what you imagined before is now. and it's always going to be now. You don't live in the future because you don't, and you can't live in the past because it's gone. All you have is the present, and you have to make the most out of the present because this is all we have. Let's say, so I'm going to plan right now. Yeah, plan and do it right now. There are people who tend to see that they are good leaders in the future because they're good planners. And it's really good to make plans. However, the point is not the plan. The point is to live that plan now. Did that make sense to you, Krisha?
Very, very. That's why that's that's a good thing about me being, attentive to all of your podcasts or previous episodes, because just like what I mentioned earlier, I always learn from you, Dr. Rich. That's why I'm very thankful for this show, for you.
And I am too, Krisha, from the bottom of my heart for bringing us here together with the viewers that we have that are very consistent and loyal followers. There are so many podcasts out there. They have a choice, but they chose this podcast to learn from us. So we're learning together in this. They make their questions and send their questions and comments and testimonies and experiences. It inspires me. It brings me back to the place where I first began. Uh, like, for example, this question, it says here, uh, Dr. Rich, do you ever look back at your early leadership days and cringe? Cringe, right. I have got enough material for a blooper reel. There were times when I fell down literally because I tried to use a floor buffer, something that our janitors use very, very well, that I am not trained to do. And I tried that. I messed. I failed miserably. When you do something that you are not good at, you need to be able to have a trajectory or a ladder in order to learn that skill. And you'd think, well, that's a janitor, that's the job, that's easy job. Try to do their job. If you haven't done that before, you will fail miserably. So it's like that. So you look back on those days, you think you're the best leader in your life, and you're not. Here you go. You're collecting all those experiences of failures, which when I look back now, I can see that they are fun to talk about. At that moment, it was very painful. So there was a time I thought showing up early, staying late, and sending emails at 2 a.m. I just got a response today about an email that I just sent, and they said, we're at home right now. Like, do you want us to do it? And I said, no, take your time. Because sometimes you're so into that, you think that that is dedication. Now I know it mostly meant I was, let's say, caffeinated and slightly unhinged, but it is growth for me to understand all those kinds of things.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Rich, because admittedly, I do that. I mean, I'm like that right now. Like, 100% I'm like that right now. Like, for example, in law school, because I don't really sleep that much. So whenever we have assignment or task, I always message my classmates that, okay, give me this, and then this is that. So it's like, even if it's like in the middle of the night, this so like I kind of forget that oh, they must be sleeping, they must be resting. So thank you for sharing that, because oh, it's not just like what they normally say in here in the Philippines, hindi pala ako nag-iisa. I'm not
That's
alone in this kind of moments.
that's true. No, no, nobody is alone here. We're alone because the journey is a solo journey. Everyone has a solo journey, but the word is not solo. The word is everyone. That means every single one of us has a solo journey, but we're journeying together. It's just independently. We can't. I cannot take that journey for you, and as well as you cannot take that journey for me. I have to take it for myself, and you have to take it for yourself. Together we have that journey, which brings me to a realization about the second segment that we're talking about, and it's called grace in the chaos. Grace in the chaos is a very important part of this segment because we have grace, but we also go through different kinds of chaos. But can we take a break for a little bit and we'll be right back? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Beyond Health and Wellness episode season 2, episode 12. We are in our last episode for this season. We'll be right back after some reminders. Here we are. We're back now to our live podcast. We are live at stream.lawin.net. We're also live in YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and live in Apple Podcast, Google, and Spotify. So we're here with 21,000 followers and growing. This is our every Friday podcast at 8 p.m. After this episode, we'd like to announce to our audience that we will pause for 2 weeks, and then we'll come back for our next episode, which is episode number 3. We'll start with our podcast uh, season number 3 and podcast episode number 1. I'm not sure when I'm going to master that part. Segment number 2, we are in Grace in the Chaos. I've learned that leadership isn't barking orders. When you bark orders, that doesn't mean you're a leader, obviously, and it's being the calm voice in a chaotic room. I remember I always tell my staff or my colleagues, if you are in the operating room doing surgery and something wrong is happening or wrong, something goes wrong, and then you end up having a code let's say the code blue, which means that there is an issue in the cardiac organ of the patient, and you are just going to make some CPR for that, which is your cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and you're in the operating room. So there is a little bit of chaos there, but the surgeon, I'd expect, would be the calmest person in the room. And that's always like a tradition, a rule that's never to be broken. And sometimes it gets broken, and then you see the result because you need to be able to exercise grace in the middle of chaos. It's not about you being able to be the person that barks orders, but you being the calm voice, the voice that will calm every other voice around you. We have another question that I have here, Krisha, and it says, "Do you stay calm when it feels like everything is on fire?" Figuratively, hopefully. I like that. Let me just repeat that question. Do you stay calm when it feels like everything is on fire, figuratively and hopefully? And I'd like to say that that question is a great clarification. What I want to say as an answer is I breathe deeply and often.
And
And
you
I
go to
learn,
the
yes,
just like the previous episode, right? Like you were, I think, cursing
yeah,
somewhere. The one with mom.
uh, yeah. Are you talking about the Dr. Amelia Terenzio?
Yes,
Yes.
like you're going to breathe in and out, and then you will go somewhere to curse someone. I
Oh,
think.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was a funny story for us in school because we were in school together and we had this chaos about, I think it was about medication and drugs and pharmacology. And there was a long line of people wanting to have a piece of the drugs and solutions that they need for the patient, but they can't get it. And so, what is the solution for us as leaders? Is what was going to ask. And I said, it's going to be a chaotic issue, because then does the pharmacy have to be a little window and no one can get in, and we just have to fall in line? So it challenges our patience, and because of that, I'd like to go ahead and go eh, chant in the woods for their demise. That is going to be just me. That was crazy. And I learned that people mirror energy. When you have a positive energy, it's not very hard that people around you will have positive energy as well. But if you panic, however, the people around you will panic also. If you pause, people will lean in. They realize, what was it? Why was there a pause? So they become curious about you. And sometimes it could be a very good leadership approach or strategy if you really want people to understand what you're wanting to say. Now, we in one of our previous episodes, and I think it was in season number one, we were talking a lot about feel good hormones, these hormones that we call as dopamine, we call it as serotonin, oxytocin, and adrenaline, or endorphins. They are feel good hormones, and they tend to make people feel good when you exhibit them. For example, when you hug a person, that's oxytocin. When you make them laugh, that is endorphins. When you make them feel better, when you give them awards and recognitions, that is dopamine that is at work. When you give them movements or remove them, or maybe you shake their hands, or maybe you walk together, that is inducing serotonin. They feel good, they feel better. The bad thing, not necessarily the bad thing probably, but something that is a more of a disadvantage to these kinds of hormones that are released in overdose in our body, is that they are very addictive. And because they are very addictive, you tend to be looking for them. And if you don't have them, then you don't have that feeling. Now, the feeling of the other side is the feeling of stress, and we have the adrenaline, and we have the cortisol. So we're talking about here. I said that what do you do? And you breathe, deeply, you breathe often, and that is inducing a lot of oxytocin there, and sometimes the dopamine also is released. But when you do the opposite thing, let's say when you panic, the other person in front of you or around you will also panic or tend to panic, because you're releasing a different kind of hormone, and that is the devil's cocktail of the hormone, is what I call it. It's called cortisol. Cortisol and adrenaline is released in your body, so that when you panic, the other person is affected by it. So it's all about energy, but understanding how these energies are released. Then these energies are released in the form of what kind of reaction you have. So you always check, let's say you check your blanket warmer. Somewhere you will try to reheat your pizza. All those kinds of energy are projected, and when you reheat your pizza in your microwave oven, and it releases that soothing smell, and it releases that oxytocin in you, and the dopamine in you. You feel good, you feel thirsty, you like to eat, you're feeling good right there. But it's also the energy that you project around it. So it's the same kind of process. Are you following me there, Grisha?
Yes, actually, in relation to that, I remember one of the things that you mentioned during this season actually is that whenever some people don't really match the same energy that you produce or you give, then there's nothing wrong with cutting them off in your life and prioritizing yourself or your energy, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Now, here's the question. I think you're going to share that question. What does it mean?
By
What does it
grace
mean by
and chaos.
grace influence? What does it mean? So grace is their ability to journey or to navigate around circumstances without a lot of distractions. You're smooth, this grace under pressure. And it's usually adopted or developed by training and experience. The other one is when you now say grace in chaos, there is chaos, but you're able to control it. The chaos did not control you. So grace in chaos is the ability of that person, and in this case, a leader, to journey and navigate on despite the circumstances. That is when the drivers, you have these drivers, right? We call some of them the reckless drivers, especially the men. The men, it gets insulted when they are called as the terrible drivers because they're usually perfect drivers, they think. But the women are perfect backseat drivers as well. So there's that constant controversy of conflict and argument. But then when you are in the traffic, now how you react to the traffic determines how much grace you exercise. Because in the traffic you easily lost it, and then therefore the cortisol hormones and the adrenaline hormones, the stress hormones take over, and then it changes the mood. It changes your energy around. It's not because you want to do it, but it's because it's triggered by the situation around you. You lose the grace in
Well,
losing.
I hope a lot of our Filipino kababayans out there are listening because, there's a recent incident in relation to, driving, about road rage here in the Philippines. Like there are a lot of casualties because the driver of an SUV actually pulled out his gun and
Wow.
killed, I think, three people, including, or four people, including his partner. So, uh, talking about reckless driving and then road
Yeah,
rage.
yeah,
So, I think it's very important to have that grace amidst chaos, that no matter how, what the situation is, it's important to keep our temper intact or be patient to avoid that kind of situation wherein we are going to, we
exactly.
might kill someone.
Hmm. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of willingness to train yourself and to develop yourself. And when I say a little bit, I mean that you are willing to go through the pain of improving yourself or building a different kind of path that you will want to follow, or a different kind of habit that you want to follow, because it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be willing to change yourself. So that's what it is. And there was one question here that says, um, what does it mean to journey back to ourselves, and why is it necessary? That ties up to that scenario that you presented, which is that you want to be able to go back to yourself and be willing and be the person that reflects that. It is the ability to continually explore life, but also at the end of all your exploring, what T.S. Eliot said, is to arrive the place where you first began and know that place for the first time. And I like that thought, but I also like how Socrates interpret that by saying that an unexamined life isn't worth living. You journey back to yourself. It is very necessary because you really can't move forward if yourself is not with you. So you want to go back to yourself and bring it with you as you move forward. You don't want to leave that self behind. So you want to journey back each time you make mistakes, which we all do. Go back to the self. I keep telling people when things are not going as well as you'd like it to go, it's not the thing, it's you. If you change yourself, the things that are around you will change. And if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes. It's kind of like that.
But you see, Dr. Reach, I think it's inherent for all human beings to have pride, to be
Yeah.
sometimes egoistical, right? So I think it's really hard for someone to acknowledge their mistakes and to reflect upon themselves. I think that's the main reason why people don't really, get better or improve themselves.
Mhm.
So, with regard to that, how would you, advise someone who doesn't really want to acknowledge or reflect?
You don't.
Oh,
Unfortunately, you can do everything you can for that person, but you can only do so much because that person will have to decide for themselves and you'd have to decide for you. The only person that you can change and improve is you. If you are not improving, then the surroundings is not improving as well. The things that we see from the outside is a reflection of the things that we have going on in the inside. It reflects from the outside, from the inside out. So in order to change our environment, the change has to happen from inside and outside. And then we say, well, I've changed. Why are they not changing? And I would say, no, you haven't. Because if you changed, the surroundings around you would have changed already. Because they are all the reflection of who you are from the inside. It's not what they look like, it's who you are from the inside that affects what's in the outside. So if the environment is corrupt, it's because inside you is corrupt. If the environment is negative, it's because inside you is negative. If the things out around you is poor, negative, and always problematic, it's because in the inside it's poor, it's negative, and it's problematic. Now you'll have to change from that perspective. And everywhere we go, I think all over the world, I think I have traveled enough places to say that I have seen the same kinds of phenomenon, that no matter who you are, where you are in the world, if you don't change from the inside, the things around you will never change as well.
now for my follow-up question with regard to that, Dr. Rich, is it
Yeah,
wrong, for example, for me to, when I reflect on myself, of course, there will be changes.
yeah.
So, is it wrong for me to expect other people to change as accordingly?
It is not. I wouldn't say it is wrong. It is not about whether it's right or wrong. It is knowing what you intend to see in the outside. What you intend to see in the outside, you will see it. But what you are seeing is what's going on in the inside of you. So it will make us go back to the idea of, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes.
That's very. Can you put it in the chat box so that I would take note of it?
I will put it. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes. And it takes a good amount of reflection to really get it absorbed into our senses so that we will really truly understand. And trust me, it's not one person. There's so many people that are affected by it. Now, let's move on to our segment number three. Our segment number three is actually about mentorship, the mentorship that found me. So, do you know what no one else tells you? What no one else tells you is that mentorship often happens in quiet moments. They are not big speeches. They are not your signed comments. They are not the "you've got this" or between your whatever job you're having. It is always at the quiet moments behind closed doors. That's the mentorship. That's really what we're talking about. That's the kind of mentorship that is looking for us and has found us. For example, I have this question: who mentored you without knowing it? They didn't know that they mentored me, or I didn't know that they mentored me already. So those kinds of people, they are far too many for me to count. Those are the people that corrected me. Those are the people that pointed to me what I did wrong, what I missed. Those are the people that I work together, doctors, nurses, practitioners, leaders, that tells me it's okay to fail. It's okay to find yourself somewhere in the supply closet and cry or sob, or maybe feel sad and feel sorry about yourself. Just make sure that when you go out, just tell them what is in your eyes is IV fluids or something like that, because it takes mentorship to sound like you're doing fine, and sometimes it also takes mentorship to sound like it's don't do that again.
I think in my case, um, I actually agree that we could no longer count who played a part in our life, who mentored us along the way. But for me, every person that I encounter, whether they gave me a happy moment or a painful moment, along the way of that moment, that moment with that person, I think I've learned something. That's why, for me, every person that I encounter, they play a part of teaching me something, whether it be, um, whether I experience pain along the way. So that's for me, Doctor. For example, you, Doctor H, we never really know each other prior to me
Mhm.
working under the network, but I'm happy that even if we are not, or we are strangers to one another, now I'm learning a lot of things from you.
And that's awesome. That's great to know. It's because they are random people. They are not necessarily intention to be the mentor, but they are the ones that show up along the way to show you where you need to go, or remind you of what was being missed. It's not usually an official, can you mentor me? Yes, let's have an agreement, and now you're going to mentor me. But let's talk about that some more, Krisha, when we come back after some reminders. This is Beyond Health and Wellness. We're season 2, episode 12, our last episode. We'll be right back. Here we are. We're back in our episode, and we're talking here about leadership, about moving forward, and looking from the back, from the beginning. And we are in our last episode for this season. We are season 2 of our episode, and we are in the last episode. This is Beyond Health and Wellness. We're broadcasting live from Wisconsin and Texas, and it's 8 o'clock Friday in the evening, Texas time, and that is 9 o'clock in the morning, Saturday of Philippine time. Am I correct, Risha?
Yep, definitely. It's 9:45 here. in the
Okay,
Philippines.
that's good. That's good. That's what we're doing. And so we are going. I just had. I want to flash this slide for our audience so that we can share it to them. And I'm not sure if it's there in the slide, Christian, but maybe not. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to present a different kind of screen so that they will see the actual screen that I'm sharing. Here we go. I would like to share that screen to our audience before we move forward because it is very important to share this wonderful opportunity for me to speak at the Becker's 15th annual conference in Chicago, in the Hyatt Regency Chicago. And there are about over 3,000 executive level attendees in that conference. They either own hospitals, CEOs of hospitals or hospital groups, or CEOs of different kinds of organizations that are related to or are serving hospital organizations, or plainly entrepreneurs that are in, in the capacity of executive leader. There are over 200 sessions, and one of those sessions is where I'm speaking at. And the topic of that session is the future of social determinants of health, where community hospitals fit. So, what I'm sharing there is our insights about what is it, what's the future of our community, or what determines how healthy we are, or how sick we are, or how fit we are, and does our community fit into the puzzle and intricacies of healthcare processes and services. Could we then eventually say that we have served our community? I'll be talking about that, but also I'm also going to be talking more heavily on where does the operating room, surgeries, invasive surgeries, and artificial intelligence that is used in the operating room fall in place as far as serving the communities are concerned, because different communities have different surgical needs, such as you have colonoscopy, which is the legally mandated for everybody who are beyond 50 years old. And so they go to those communities that have uh, those kinds of procedures that are serving them, and those that don't, where do they fall? And especially in the Texas area, where Houston is identified as the place where the huge amount of population in that area are morbidly obese. What does our community do in order to serve those kinds? So we're talking about bariatric surgeries there, like lap bonding and all kinds of bariatric surgeries, including different kinds of dietary requirements. So we are serving the communities in terms of leadership, but we're really going beyond health and beyond wellness so that we are able to go find those people who didn't even think that they need that service to be served. That's where I will be talking about. And I'd like to invite you, if you are in the Chicago area, to drop by, register yourself, and drop by. It's a huge conference. There are over 15,000 attendees, including 3,000 of them in the executive level roles and positions. So we'll be talking a lot about something that will move healthcare into the place where we want it to be. So see me there. I'll be signing autographs too, and we're having networking there. So hopefully you'll be there and you'll join me. And if you see me there, stop by and say hi. I'd be happy to post a picture with you, or maybe give you my card so that you will be able to get in touch with me as we finish with the conference. It will be on April 28th to May 1 in Chicago. That's the Becker's 15th annual meeting. Okay, so now let's continue, Krisha, after that plug. We will continue to talk about what we said, letting go so that we can let it in. Now, there's a version of me that I had to let go to become who I am now. It's just like living out the cells. The cells in our body They die every like 120 days. After 120 days, our cells die. Those that are already in that age will die, and then there are new cells that's coming out. So every day there is a cell that is 120 days, and it dies. There will be replaced by new cell. Goes on and on. It's the same thing that makeup or that process is the entire makeup of the human body. And so right now I am no longer the same person I used to yesterday. The version that I had to have, the version that had to have all the answers is the one that is me today. That version that was yesterday was tired. That version was honestly not the fun part of me. I'm moving ahead. The body that I occupied 4 years ago is no longer the body that I occupy now. The body that I occupied when I was a newborn, when I was a toddler, is not the body that I occupy now. I have changed a lot. This body that you're seeing now in the video is not the body that you see before, because it changes, and it always changes in a way. Why don't we just go ahead and embrace change? All right. But there's the question: what did you have to learn to grow? Yeah, there's a lot of things. First, I had to unlearn urgency addiction. The urgency addiction forces you to move forward faster than you are naturally supposed to go. Not everything needs to be solved right now. Not every email deserves your soul. Not all of them need to be replied or read today. The joy of living isn't optional. The joy of living is the fuel of how we become what we become. So there are things that we unlearn, but one of those is unlearning the urgency addiction. Okay. So today, joy looks like silence, or let's say walking my dog, or let's say dancing in the kitchen, or singing a beautiful song, or watching a television show, watching Example Neighbor. So what is it that I wanted to unlearn? There are so many things that I want to unlearn, but they fall off because something's coming at the forefront that I need to attend to right now. Every single one, whether we like it or not, we're really going to move anyway. Why don't we just move into the flow and learn the ones that are supposed to be unlearned already and move on to the next one? I thought I thought I was making sense there for a minute, Krisha.
Well, you always make sense, Dr. Rich. But anyway, for the word unlearn, I think it is also important for us to unlearn the things that used to that are no longer working for us. I Does that make sense? Oh my gosh. Like, this is why I cannot mentor anyone like you, Dr. Rich.
Why
I
not?
always I always doubt myself as to whether I'm making sense out of the words that I'm speaking or not.
Yeah, we all do. And I think because there is, so we will look back into that lesson that we talked about is frequency, right? It's the frequency. It's up and down, it's up and it's not a straight line. It's up and down, going back. But the intention is to make sure that that is stable, but it's consistent. So that's why we said, oh, it makes sense. Oh, it makes sense. Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's good. And then you go right back up, and then you make sense, and then you don't make sense. It's like the frequency. It's the energy flowing in us. That sometimes people are listening to me in about 7 seconds. They are not listening to me anymore. But then they come back and listen to me again. That is why I think in speaking, in teaching, and in everything else, like conducting meetings and when just talking, it is important to repeat what you've said so that people who missed it can catch up with what was said that they didn't catch before. And that's why it's just, well, I don't know what I said. I don't understand what I'm saying myself. And so I'm not very consistent, and I'm not present. Start right back. And that is what meditation is also. Meditation is not, I want this, I want this. Meditation is trying to discipline your mind that when it wanders away, you bring it back. You wander away, it brings back until you are able to control the mind. So it's always there. Does it wander? Let's say right now we're talking, and then you're talking about what do you eat in the morning, or what do you do after this podcast, and then you come back. Yeah, we're still in the podcast. It goes in and out, in and out, in and out constantly.
So with regard to that, with regard to mentorship, Dr. H, for my last question for you this
Yes,
season, um, is did you really want to become a mentor? Did you really, is it your calling? Is it your choice?
it
Because
is.
you're a doctor,
Well,
right?
I think it is both, but it didn't happen overnight. I used to remember why I am what I am right now when I look back at a very young age of, let's say, about 5 years old, 6 years old to 7 years old. At those age, I can remember my dad will put me on top of a wooden fruit box that's empty. He will put me over there and train me how to speak, and train me to memorize a speech and deliver it. And if I make mistakes, he would go up there and correct me. The hands will be here this way, and you look here, and then you step here, and then you say that word. My dad didn't finish high school. He was in the army the whole time, and he taught me those kinds of things, and it wasn't easy for me, and it wasn't comfortable, and it goes on until I finished elementary, until I finished high school, until I finished college. And then now that I'm in this kind of role, honestly, I am paid over 20 about $20,000 per session for one person to do mentorship or coaching. And I realized this is what it was all about. When I was very young, I was mentored by my dad. And so it wasn't planned, it wasn't intended, but it evolved into that kind of role.
Are you happy with what happened?
I think I am happy, and I think I am very fulfilled and very happy that I am able to impact lives. I am able to inspire growth in others. I am able to create an impact in other people's lives and also enrich them in the process. And that's really my mantra. That is why I am here. And I don't think I am that exceptional communicator. I mumble here and there, and I stumble, and I don't understand what I'm talking about, except that what it is then that is me. Embrace what is me. I'm talking to a lot of people, large groups of people, and some of them are smaller groups. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to one person in camera, talking to one person live in front of me, or talking to 100 person. I talk like this, and it's just the way I speak. But it's not because it should be the way you speak, although I think that's a very important factor. I think it's what you bring out into the other person. Because I've always learned that people are good and very impressive until they open their mouth and speak, and then they show to the world their rank in the social ladder of success. So it's very important to understand also that how you say or deliver those words matter. But what it is in the first place should matter as well as how it is delivered, I would say.
Well, a lot of learnings for today, Dr. Rich.
Yes, I know, me too. Well, we are reaching that part where we have to say goodbye, Krisha. I'm really very grateful for our audience to be with us in this journey. For 12 episodes, they are here with us for Beyond Health and Wellness Season 2. We're very grateful for every single one of you. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have experiences to share, please send them our way, and we'll be happy to acknowledge them. One day we are going to meet you somewhere, and we are going to inspire each other, and we are going to say that once upon a time we were together in this podcast, Beyond Health and Wellness Conversations with Dr. Rich. Thank you, Krisha, for being with us in this closing episode of our season number 2 for this Beyond Health and Wellness. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye bye.
And bye, Dr. Rich.